Welcome into the Ben Buzz. I'm Benny King, and I'm joined by a guest here, my friend Quinten.
Hello.
So today we're going to be talking about 2025 movies. Now, this year, it's definitely been a great year for movies. Been a better year. It's been a while since we've got this good of a year, and I just can't. I don't even remember when movies were hitting this great, where it feels like back to back to back, where movies are just really great, and there's a lot of them. Honorable mentions that we're not really going to talk about today, but like F1, Mission Impossible, How to Train Your Dragon, Lilo and Stitch, the new Karate Kid movie, and it seems like they just keep coming in. What do you think about that, Quentin?
Yeah, I agree with you because, normal times when a movie comes out, I normally never go see it in theaters because it normally gets bad reviews or, there's really no hype to it.
Right.
But the movies this year, I've walked out of the theater with just, a smile on my face. There's not a lot of movies that make you do that, you know?
I know, same here. And I think the biggest part is that it's been a really great rebound for superhero movies, where it feels like they've been on the decline for a while, where Marvel was obviously very great until after Endgame, where they started to kind of lose their footing, but they got back on track with Thunderbolts, and then we just got out of Fantastic Four this past weekend, and it was fantastic. What did you think about that, Quentin?
I would also agree with that.
Yeah, it was a great movie, and the cast was actually, a lot of people were judging it, saying Pedro Pascal couldn't nail Reed Richards, but I felt like he sold it pretty well. The Silver Surfer was great, Galactus was great, and I think in the 2007 movie, he was just a cloud. So it was cool to actually see Galactus in live action. Maybe he looked a little smaller than he should have, but then they couldn't really stop him then, so they had to make it believable. But yeah, that was a great movie, and then we also saw Superman a few weeks ago. What'd you think about that one?
I thought it was a really decent movie, probably the best Superman that I've ever seen. It's starting a new universe of the DC thing of that genre at least, and I think that's a really good start, and I'm excited for the future where that could take DC.
Yeah, I agree. And I've seen a lot of people online saying it felt like the Iron Man of DC, and I would have to agree because we had Zack Snyder for a while, and we had Man of Steel, which, sure, it wasn't that bad of a movie, but it's just not, it wasn't true to the character. It wasn't true to Superman. And then Batman vs. Superman was a dumpster fire, and then Justice League was a dumpster fire too. And it feels like they've been so directionless where even though the Superman movie might not end up making that much money, the whole point is that it needs to revamp faith in the brand, which I think it's certainly done, which is sort of what Thunderbolts did and is why Fantastic Four is getting all this success this summer. Honestly, I'm really excited for the future of superhero movies, and especially with Doctor Doom being the big bad. And it's been a while since we've seen him in live action, at least faithfully, because we saw him in 2015, but it didn't really work. 2005 was fine, but this one looks really great. And Robert Downey Jr., he certainly nailed Iron Man, one of the greatest. I think that's probably the greatest casting. He's the greatest superhero of all time. And we're going to see how he nails Doom. What do you think about Robert Downey Jr. as Doom?
Well, I have my doubts about it because, if you see Robert Downey Jr. outside of his acting as Iron Man, he's literally Iron Man.
Right, yeah.
They have the same personality. There has been times in movies where he's gotten mad and, you can see that he does have that, evilness aspect inside of him. But it'll be, interesting to see if he could pull off a role, to threaten the entire universe, in a sense.
Right. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what his range is, because after Endgame, he wanted to completely revamp his career, and so I don't know if you saw the Dr. Dolittle movie he did, but he did like a weird voice. He wanted it to be so different and distinct from Iron Man, and it just didn't really land. And we've seen him other stuff. He was just in Oppenheimer a few years ago, which ran away with stuff at the Oscars, and he won his first, I think it was his first Oscar-winning supporting actor that year, and so I think he does have that range, but we'll have to see because it's he was so perfect as Iron Man. It's going to be hard to see him as anybody else. But, certainly his post-credit scene in Fantastic Four, I'm sold so far. And I think Marvel, they've had to win me for these past couple of years where, after Endgame, I feel like they've started to lose me. But I feel like this is the first time where they have to lose me now. I feel like I'm bought in to this next phase. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say the same. I don't think it compares to the hype with Infinity War or
Right.
Endgame just yet, but I
Yeah.
feel like the more movies and like maybe TV shows that come out before then, like leading up the hype, maybe introducing new characters, new little teasers.
Right.
I feel like for right now there is hype, but definitely not as big.
Yeah, I would agree, but it's going to really be interesting because it sounds like these movies, maybe they're not going to do as big as the box off as the last ones did at the box office. Maybe they're not going to be as huge in popularity with fans, but in terms of the characters and who they're bringing in, it seems like it's going to be a lot of a larger scale, especially if you know the Secret War story from the comics, where it sounds like they're bringing in all the X-Men, where Patrick Stewart's coming back, all these guys. And hopefully we see more Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, where that's also one of the more like perfect castings. What do you think about that?
I think that would be really cool because there hasn't really been like a main Marvel movie where he's been
Right.
in it, and I feel like seeing Deadpool interact with all the other Marvel characters and like how they differ in personality would be like really cool.
Right, I agree. And it's really surprising that it took so long for Deadpool to get his own solo movie. But then once he did, Deadpool 1 was great, Deadpool 2 was great, and then Disney was able to scoop him up and then made a bunch of money pairing him with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, which is also like an incredible character that they've been able to build up. And just seeing Deadpool in the future is really going to be great, and it just feels like we've been cheated where it's like if he was like if like we could have had these movies so long ago with Ryan Reynolds fighting for it for like a decade to get that first movie made, and it's just like it sucks, but it's like it's nice to see all the Deadpool content we're going to be getting, and hopefully we see more of him in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that because like every Deadpool movie has been a banger, and like he is perfect for that role.
Right, and it's a great theatrical experience every time, and the way they handled it with Deadpool and Wolverine bringing him in to the MCU was really interesting. And you know, there was that clip in Deadpool and Wolverine where it was like, why was Thor crying? Where I wonder if we'll be seeing that in Doomsday. What do you think?
That would be really cool because like Marvel likes to drop little things that feature in movies, but I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, because we saw that post-credit scene in Fantastic Four this past weekend where it seems Doctor Doom might be taking Franklin away, Sue and Reed Richards' child. That was the whole focal point of that movie because Galactus wanted to take him, which is kind of surprising, which I guess he's like some overpowered character in the comics. I'm not too familiar. Are you that familiar with Franklin in the comics?
Well, one of my friends told me like in the comics what his power is. I'm not exactly sure if this is true, but he says if he believes it, it is.
That is crazy. That is a crazy power.
Like he said, like he's one of like the top, like he's in the list of top strongest Marvel characters. I didn't ask any more than that because I never read the comics myself.
Right.
But if that's true, that would be really like interesting that like everybody's fighting over this like 6-year-old child.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And we saw the climax of the film where the Invisible Woman ends up using like all of her powers to get Galactus into that portal and then ends up dying. But then Franklin just magically brings her back to life. And it's going to be a while before we get any new Marvel content, but we are going to get Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is going to be finally a street-level Spider-Man movie for Tom Holland, which I'm excited for. And it looks like we're going to get the Punisher in that movie, so that should be exciting. And then Doomsday and Secret Wars. And then after that, I guess we'll have to see, because it sounds like they might be rebooting the whole universe. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good start because, like, sometimes the multiverse can get a little confusing and it's really hard to get attached to characters because, like, they'll just come back. It's like the Iron Man situation. Like, he died, but because of whole the multiverse thing, they're just bringing him back.
Right.
Like, I like it in some aspects, but at the same time, I feel like it can be, like, really used as, like, a cheap way out.
Right. Yeah, I agree. But this really, where Marvel, even though they've sort of fallen off, they still have had great projects come out after Endgame, and it feels like, I feel like I'm back, like, bought in, where it feels like they're back, like, and they understand, and they're back in control, where I feel like they're going to start pumping out more projects. Like, if we had gotten this type of stuff over the past, like, years, I don't think we would have seen the Marvel fall off, where after Secret Wars, DC might start to take over, because DC's got a lot of groundwork that they can build up a universe where if Marvel's just trying to start a new one, that they might end up behind for the first time in a while.
Yeah, because Marvel right now is working to, like, they're rapidly trying to build it up so they can like end it in a sense. But DC looks like they're trying to start like a bunch of brand new things because like
Right.
if DC's like going up and then Marvel like after Doomsday takes that like reboot, then DC will be on top because they will already have like a good universe
And
established.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it'll be hard for a new Marvel to come back because like everybody knows the Avengers that we have now. Everybody loves them, and it'll be really hard to start a new team like that with new actors and everything.
Right. I absolutely agree. And I think it's really going to be hard to capture the magic that they did before because the luckiness that they had where not only did they like they sold all of their most like their most popular characters. They sold Hulk to a Universal. They sold the X-Men to Fox. They sold Fantastic Four to Fox. Like Deadpool, which they didn't even know how popular that he could be. And then Wolverine, who was really popular, they sold all of them to Fox. And then with wouldn't say like the leftovers, but with like Iron Man, Captain America, and like this Avengers, the fact that they were able to do this with characters that weren't necessarily their A-list is just honestly like the amount of luckiness. And then also like honestly, I can't imagine anybody else playing Iron Man other than Robert Downey Jr. Chris Evans is perfect for Captain America. Like Jeremy Renner for Hawkeye. Chris Hemsworth, I can't imagine anyone else's Thor now, where I think that's really going to be tricky. And that's a wall that DC is running into, where it was like, who are they going to cast as Superman when everyone's like, oh, but Henry Cavill's Superman. And they kind of nailed it with David Cornsweet, where it's going to be like, can Marvel do the same thing? But I think it's different because DC's universe kind of failed, and there were so many movies that flopped where even if people like the actor, they're willing to embrace the new one, where these ones were so perfect and the castings were so perfect and the movies were so great that I think it's going to be really difficult for people to embrace new actors in these beloved roles. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say the same because like whenever the first like Avengers movie came out, even like the solo movies like the Iron Man movie, like people are saying like he is Iron Man. Like
Right.
if you look at these actors, even if you like know their like other movies that they're in and stuff, you 90% of people will go like toward their superhero because like that is who they are.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I don't know how they're going to find a way to recast them. And then even like the first Avengers movie was great. And then even though Age of Ultron wasn't as good, they still had an established universe with so much beloved characters that movie still performed well, and they were still able to capitalize on these characters, where it feels like that's where DC kind of failed, where they had a Justice League movie that did flop, but the characters, a lot of them, they tried to establish them all in the span of one or two movies instead of giving them their own solo movies, so the characters weren't as enriched in the fandom. They weren't as like fan favorited. And so like then like a lot of times like we don't want them to come back because the movie flopped. And I think that's really what DC had to deal with. But now I think DC's definitely on the come up now with Superman. And I walked out of that movie very excited for the future of DC. It's been a while because I went and saw Batman vs Superman. Incredibly disappointed when I was like 12 or something. So sad. And then, you know, when it seemed like Dwayne Johnson was going to try to bring it back, went and saw Black Adam and was also very disappointed. But I am looking forward to the future of DC. I think this is the most hopeful I've been for DC, and it makes me feel like how I felt about Marvel for so many years. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, DC movies, I have like never really been like I've always been more of a Marvel guy.
Same here.
But like when I walked out of that Superman movie, like I really had no complaints. Like I think they casted everybody perfectly. All the scenes were perfect, like the cinematography.
Right. Yeah.
Like everything was just like perfect. Like I think he is the best Superman that's like ever been shown on the screen.
Yeah, I agree. And then, David Cornsweet as Superman, and then I believe his name's Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor was also really great. Rachel Brosnahan was great as Lois Lane, and it just felt like James Gunn really understood the character. He understood the source material, where if you know like the comics that it's based on, where I think it's Superman. I forget the name of it, but it was like it very much feels like a comic book come to life, which is what Marvel's been capitalizing so much, which I don't know if you're too into comics, but I've read like Batman Year One's great, Flashpoint. Like Flashpoint's the biggest example of this, where Flashpoint is such a great comic, And then they turned it into live action with Ezra Miller in that Flash movie, and they just butchered it so much and they changed so much that it's not even the same story, and they just ruined it where the movie's not even the same as the source material, and they really just butcher it in live action, where this one, it really felt like they were really bringing it together for the fans. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you because, like, a lot of the times when books get turned into movies, the books are, like, so good and people, like, there's such high expectations for
Right.
it. And then, like, like you said, they just butcher it because, like, people loved the comics back in the day. They sold really well.
Right.
People were excited when they're like, you know, these characters that you love to read, you're going to see them live action. People got hyped for it. And then they
Exactly.
come out with that.
Right.
Like, it's like such a letdown.
Yeah, I agree. And people are still trying to hold on to the Snyderverse and saying, well, it's, Henry Cavill's better, like the Man of Steel is better because it made more money than this new Superman. But you have to realize that at that time, people were just like, if it's Superman, like, I love DC, I'll go see it. I love these characters. Batman vs. Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman in the same movie, I'll go see it. So those movies made a ton of money, but what it did is that it killed the fandom, and it really is something where they're doing a lot of legwork now with Superman, where now they're trying to pull themselves out of that hole and restore faith in this fan base that was kind of crushed, where, fans that they made a ton of money, but only because of how much fans loved these characters, and it's gonna be hard to get fans to come back after these movies that they went to see because they wanted to see their characters after they flopped so horribly. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say the same because DC's definitely, like, on the up and stuff.
Right.
And I'm excited to see where this goes because if they do other standalone DC movies, like Wonder Woman or, like,
Right.
maybe even, like, a new Batman movie or something, I don't even know.
Right. I believe they are planning to do one. Yeah.
But if they do one with the same feel and, like, just the same almost formula as the Superman movie, I feel like DC could really become great.
Yeah, I agree. And the stuff we're going to be getting from DC soon is we're going to get a Peacemaker Season 2 with John Cena, and he ended up having a cameo in Superman. That was pretty fun. And then we're going to get a Supergirl movie where we saw her at the end of Superman. This movie, like, it had a lot going on, but I felt like it juggled it well. And now, because of all these characters established and set up, that they're going to end up having a bunch of projects later on. And then we're going to have a Lantern show where we saw Guy Gardner, and he's going to be in that show. And then also Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan's Green Lanterns. So I'm very much excited for that show. And, all the characters that it's set up that, maybe we don't have, like, a time where we'll see them in the future. But Isabel Merced as Hawkgirl was so great. And Mr. Terrific he stole the show. Like, I felt like he was the best part of the movie. And everyone's going to be talking about his big fight scene with the song 5 Years' Time. What'd you think about that?
I thought it was really cool because, like, if you've ever listened to the song on its own, it is not a song you would imagine during a fight scene.
Right.
Like, he throws that protective, like, bubble down, and then that song starts playing, and he just goes out there and starts demolishing everybody. Like, it's such a contrast of things, but, like, for some weird reason, it just works really well together.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And Mr. Terrific, going in there, I hadn't really heard of him. I didn't know who that was. I had just seen him like a trailer. I was like, there's a guy with a T on his face. I don't know what that's about. And now coming out of it, like, he ended up being my favorite. Like, I want to get my hands on some Mr. Terrific comics. And I didn't realize that there was such a cool character and that's what James Gunn's really great about. Because prior to when James Gunn brings these characters to life, like, no one cared about the Guardians of the Galaxy, no one cared about Peacemaker, no one cared about Bloodsport, no one cared about Polka Dot Man, but now everyone loves these characters because James Gunn brought them to life, and that's what he's so great at.
Yeah, like, those characters, I would say if they weren't portrayed by James Gunn, I don't think they would have done as well as they did. Because, like, didn't James Gunn used to work for Marvel?
He did. Well, he directed Guardians of the Galaxy 1 through 3.
Yeah, and then they let him go, didn't they?
Yeah, and also now he's the head of DC, so I think he's okay with this now. And
Yeah.
Marvel's kind of on, like, going out, too, so. But, yeah, I mean, and I think a big difference from Snyder was Jimmy Olsen, because in we saw Jimmy Olsen in the Snyderverse, but it was in Batman vs Superman. All he was a CIA operative that ended up just getting murdered after like 2 seconds of meeting him. In this one, it's really true to the comics, where he's a ladies' man, where we see like girls at work like waving at him, where like one of the biggest plot points of the movie of like unveiling Luthor's plan is because of like Luthor's girlfriend having the hots for him instead of Luthor. So he ends up having like a lot of powers in his own right with his Riz. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought that was really funny. Because, like, in the comics, like, that's definitely, like, he was a ladies' man. And then in Batman versus Superman, him getting murdered was, like, just out of the blue. Like, it was, like,
Right.
weird. Like, that's not his character,
Right,
though.
and he wasn't even a journalist.
No, but, like we said earlier about, like, bringing comic books to life, that's what the Superman movie, like, really did. Like,
Right.
these characters are who they are in the comic book. Like, Superman doing those acts of kindness. In one scene, he saved a squirrel from getting
Yeah.
killed. Like
That was
that's
the one where that really set it apart.
like
from
that's like that's what Superman would do. Like he's just that
Snyder. Right.
good of a guy.
But in Snyder's movie, he'll just sit there while a courtroom burns and not even try to save a single person for the purpose of aura farming. Like, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I also saw like another clip. I'm not sure which movie it's from, but like there's like this truck coming at him and like he's in front of a building and he just jumps over the truck and lets it hit the building.
I saw that too. Where in this one, he's fighting a giant kaiju at one point in the movie. It's a distraction while Luthor's going after the Fortress of Solitude, which, by the way, the Fortress of Solitude was portrayed very, very well. Which, if you saw Man of Steel, it was very, like, black. It was very gray. It was, like, dark colors. But this was, like, bright. It was vibrant. It was, like, the bright white. And then you see all the bots, where we see number 4 or Gary down there. That was a really great sequence. But when he's fighting the giant kaiju and, like, he's, like, breathing fire, like, people were, like, clowning on him in the trailers because they're like, well, why is he covering his face for the fire? But he's trying to cover as much area as possible because he doesn't want the fire to hit the building, because this Superman really cares about the people. He punches the kaiju, and as the kaiju is falling into the building, he swoops around and doesn't let them hit the building. And then as he's like going, like holding this huge beast, goes like, hey, you guys okay? He saves a woman and goes, all right, you know, breathing, you know, and it's like, it really feels like the Superman cares about humanity. Where the last one, it just felt like in the last one, there was a big point of him turning himself in, right? As well as this one. In the last one, he wasn't thinking about like saving anybody. He said like, yeah, I guess I better. And he ended up being like, he was at a church like talking to like a reverend. He's like, I'm the one they want, but I don't know if I should. But in this one, he's doing everything he can to get a dog that he barely knows. That's not even a good dog, he says, but he's trying to get the dog back. And we see the scene where he barges into Luthor's office, where he throws the table, where he's like yelling like, hey, where's the dog? You know, and some people were mad that he didn't throw the table, and they're like, with Superman's strength, why didn't he throw the table through the wall, and why didn't it like fall down below? And like, well, then it could land on something. Like, Superman's not stupid. Like, he really does care about people and not just aura farming, which I think that this one really illuminates. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say too. Like back to the kaiju. Like Mr. Terrific like wanted to kill it, but Superman was like, no, let's capture it and study it and learn from it.
Yeah.
Like he like there's this girl, and I'm pretty sure he protected her while he took the blunt of the impact and stuff.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
It's like he's just the perfect Superman. Like he does everything with thought. He does everything meticulously. Like he just does simple acts of kindness.
Right.
And like in one of the scenes, like at the very end when he's yelling to Luthor, he's like, I'm human just as you. Like I cry, I get mad. Like it was almost like just a good portrayal of the character.
Right. And I think a big part where I think it was the kaiju battle as well, where he's holding the kaiju up and he could like toss it or he could fight it, but there's a dog that's under there as well. And so he's just holding it on for dear life and ends up having to blow the dog away with his freeze breath, and then ends up getting squished because of it, because he was distracted, and ends up having to find his way through the ground and back up, where it really just feels like he cares for every life no matter what. Like you said, he saved a squirrel, and he was kind of like, he was more upset that the kaiju died that was literally terrorizing the city than Superman was in the Snyder movies when a courtroom just blew up. Instead, he just stood there shaking his head. But in this one, he was actually upset for the animal because he's like, man, I failed. I failed to protect all life, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because like this Superman just like whenever the plot point was they like Lex retrieved the rest of the message from his parents saying
Right.
like take over them and stuff, like slowly weed your way into them and stuff. Like he was surprised because he's like, that's not who I am.
Right.
Like I love helping people because
Right.
he thought he was sent here to be the protector of humanity, and
Right.
that's what he was. So whenever he found out like his parents wanted him to like conquer the human race, he was like, that's not who I am. Like I love humanity. I love helping people.
Right. And then we get that big speech from his adoptive father where he's like, your choices, your actions, like that's what determines who you are, not who your parents wanted to be, which I think reflects everyone in our society today, where just because people have these expectations on you doesn't mean you have to follow through with them. It means you have to follow through with what you want to do, what you believe in. And I think that was really a powerful message where it feels more powerful to do it this way. And it's almost like an invincible route where like the in that show, the Viltrumites, like they want to like take over planets. They want you to like, and it's weird. It's odd when like someone's defective, right? And they don't agree with that because you control your own actions. You control, your own choices. And I think that shows really a better, deeper meaning for Superman because now he's not just doing it because he thinks it's what his parents want or he wants to make them proud. He's doing it because this is what he wants to do, which I think is the biggest difference in this one, where in the last one, his father at a Fortress of Solitude was just like telling him what to do, like, you'll do this, you protect humanity. Where this one, it feels like he's doing it because he wants to, not because he feels like he has to or because he's indebted to his parents. And we end up getting that great scene at the end where, we were talking about how his adoptive parents end up, and they end up giving him so much more tools in life than his other parents ever could, and he ends up being a much better person for it. And we see at the beginning about like, hey, play the video of his parents, it soothes him, and it shows his parents from Krypton, but then at the very end, he sits there and he smiles as he's looking at his adoptive parents, and I think that was a really great moment. What do you think?
Yeah, I do too, because he's laying there and they're like, play the video of it, parents. It makes him like happy.
Like it soothes him. Yeah.
And then it plays like these home video style looking things of him like running through the cornfield, like him under a Christmas tree with his parents, and like he's just looking around it all with this happy smile on his face.
Right.
With like this song playing. It was like a really perfect scene that sums up him as a character.
Yeah, it really was a great moment. And I feel like a lot of the people that are hating on the Superman and are judging it didn't actually watch the movie. Because I was actually talking to a coworker about this who was very against the new Superman. He loved the Snyder movies, right? And he had said, yeah, I saw like in like a trailer he gets like destroyed by one of Luthor's bots. Like, that's not Superman. He's not that weak. But if you watch the movie, you know that it's not a bot. It's Ultraman, which ends up being a Superman clone, wearing a suit of armor, and Lex Luthor is controlling him and knows his absolute move sets, which if you've seen the moves, the memes, 1A, 1A, that's all very much that Lex Luthor knows. And it's really like, if you watch the movie, you can understand why he would get whooped in that fight. And I think that was the problem with Snyder, is that they made him so powerful so early on, where it felt like there was no stakes, where the only thing they could have done was bring in another Kryptonian, where this feels like he can lose fights. He could, like, as like the end, like it did, the end monologue that you talked about earlier, where he's like, I'm as human as anyone. I get scared, where it really shows that like he's not like a god, where like that was really what Snyder was trying to portray. But this one, he's just like, I'm just like the rest of you. And I think that was really powerful, and it makes him more relatable to us than Snyder's one ever could. And that's something that I really appreciated. What did you think?
Yeah, something I remember about Marvel, like an interview with Stan Lee, people were talking about, like, why'd you make Spider-Man this high school student with problems? Or, like,
Right.
he's like, these are just real people trying to do their best in life. Like, they aren't these overpowered, godlike beings. They're just
Right.
people like you and me who got powers. And
Right.
that's almost what DC was trying to do. Like, Superman isn't a god. Like, like, to reference what I said earlier, like, in the end,
Yes.
he's like, I'm as human as the rest of you. He
Right.
feels our emotions. He feels pain. He feels love. He feels heartbreak. Like, all of those just make him more, like, a relatable hero.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And, it really just feels like he is a symbol of hope in this. And people had said, like, he loses to Luthor bots, but at a time in that movie, he mows down, like, over 100 Luthor bots in a few seconds with his laser eyes. And then when he's in the jail, people were like clowning on him because he had to wind up for a punch to break the glass. But if you watch the movie, you know that he was getting weakened by kryptonite that whole time, and so he was loading up to make sure that he would break it. At the end, when like he ends up, once Crypto destroys all of the cameras, then he's able to start really kicking Ultraman around. Where it feels like a lot of these criticisms didn't really watch the movie and quite frankly missed the point of what this Superman was trying to set up and what it was trying to make us feel. It was trying to make us feel hope. It was trying to make us feel not like he's just a god, like he's towering above us. And then like this really feels like a symbol of hope. This really feels like a superhero that kids can look up to. What do you think?
Yeah, he definitely acts way differently
Right.
than like the other hero or like Superman movies.
Right.
Like that one scene, I forget what country it was, but the country he stopped the like other country from invading.
Right.
Like those kids who tried to like who were lifting up the flag as like the other country was invading them. They're like, "We believe in you, Superman. We like you."
Right.
Even after like a lot of the other world like started to hate on him.
Yeah, and we see in an interview where Lois is kind of grilling him about it, and then eventually he loses, and she's like, "Why'd you do it?" And he's like, "People were going to die." Where he doesn't care which side, he doesn't care. He just wants to preserve life at all costs, and he cares that people live, which I feel like is such a difference from Man of Steel from Zack Snyder, where for 40 minutes he's just punching Zod through buildings, where he never lures him away, he never tries to stop him from destroying buildings. It just feels really like not Superman. And he has hardly a reaction to any of the death in that movie, where this certainly felt like Superman. And in that Batman vs Superman movie, Batman's murdering people, he's putting tattoos on people of like bats, like that's not Batman. That's Zack Snyder's like fan fiction version of him. That's not Batman, and that wasn't Superman. And even though you can say, well, those movies were good or entertaining, or a lot of people say, like, the fight scenes were better, which maybe that's fair. But anyways, that movie, even though you can say the fight scenes were better, or, you know, maybe you thought they looked cooler, or the suits were cooler, or maybe you didn't like the trunks, or, like, whatever it is, but it's like that's not loyal to those characters. Even if you like those movies, that's not Superman. That's not who Batman is. And I feel like this film way better captures who these characters are than Snyder ever could. What do you think?
Yeah, because, like, it's one thing if, like... Because I agree, like, there were some cool scenes in that movie. But, like, that wasn't them. Like, they weren't a symbol of hope, really. Like,
Right.
Superman did everything in the new movie, did everything he could so that way the kaiju didn't go into buildings. He did everything he could to, like, not cause any destruction or any death as possible, save
Right.
every animal that he could.
Exactly.
And I feel like that is who Superman is. But in the other movie, like, not caring about the death and destruction, I feel like that isn't a symbol of hope.
Right.
Because I feel like if they make a new Batman movie and, like, almost blueprint it like the new Superman movie, I feel like they'll really do Batman justice, and he hasn't been done justice in a while.
Yeah, I agree. And it looks like they are working on a new Batman movie called Batman Brave and the Bold, where it's going to be him, and it's going to be like a father-son movie with Damian Wayne. Did you know that story? So that'll be really interesting, where it's going to be really hard to make him like dark and stuff like that when he's trying to be a good father, which maybe is the point, where they're kind of doing these movies where these characters are already set up, so they're not dealing with origin stories or building up characters, where Superman in this movie, he's already been Superman for 3 years, and if Batman's going to be a father in this next one, he's already been doing it for a while. The guy they casted to play Green Lantern's Hal Jordan in that show is 59, so they're certainly casting people that are definitely like established, which I think is a big thing, where it's ridiculous that people are saying that Grant Gustin can't come back to play the Flash like he did on the CW show when he's only 35. It's like, well, if we're picking like already established people and all these people are already a little older, why is this such a big issue? And all in all, I'm really just excited for the future of DC, and I'm even maybe not more excited, but I'm still very excited for the future of Marvel, where Fantastic Four definitely pleasantly surprised me. I went into it really hoping that it was good, And I hadn't had the chance to see a Fantastic Four movie in theaters in my lifetime. I guess I could have went to 2015, but didn't end up seeing that one, and probably for good reason because it wasn't great. But this one, it really was, and it feels like it's really something that's going to set Marvel back on track. And I think a big part of it was that you don't have to see a bunch of things before it. You could go into it not knowing anything because it's a new universe, right? You could go into it knowing nothing, and you could just enjoy the movie, which I think is going to be a big part in why it does so much success, especially since Marvel has kind of fallen off as of late, where a lot of these shows aren't being watched and some movies even getting just skipped by fans, where it makes sense to have movies that you don't need to see everything prior to it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would say so too, because, like, I've never watched a Fantastic Four movie either, but I feel like that may be for the best.
Right.
Because from what I hear, this movie is way better than all the other ones.
Right, yeah.
And the cast on this movie was excellent. I feel like everyone played their character really well.
Right.
And I like the portrayal of Galactus. I thought he was cool.
Yeah, I
Needed to
agree.
be a little bit bigger, though. But
Probably, but he was very cool. And in the first scene when they go to barter with him, when he, like, and with, like, his tentacles, that was a really great scene.
yeah, it was.
And man, it's been a couple of really great weekends in this summer where we get Superman, and then a couple weekends later we get Fantastic Four, and it was a really great moment to see. And then outside of superhero movies, we're gonna see some movies that are really gonna run away at the Oscars. Where we saw Sinners recently, where what a great movie that is. Michael B. Jordan gives such a great performance. Haley Steinfeld as well. What did you think about that movie?
I thought it was a really excellent movie. I feel like everyone was casted really good.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely had a mix of emotions. Like, there was anger, there was comedy in it, there was horror in it.
Right.
Like, it had a really good mix of emotions. Some of the scenes, the cinematography was beautiful. Like whenever, like, the song started playing and, like, all the people from the past and future started showing up, like, that was a really visually entertaining scene.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And if you remember the big parade from Black Panther 2, which was done beautifully, it's the same director as well with Ryan Coogler, and I feel like he's great at bringing visuals like that to life. And a big part of this movie, why I think Michael B. Jordan's probably going to win Best Actor, is how he was able to portray two characters and make them feel distinct and different enough. And then also this is spoilers, but one of the he plays two characters, and one of the twins ends up succumbing to the vampires. And the scene, I've never seen someone do a death scene where they play as the person who dies and as the person who's, like, trying to grieve and trying to, like, say, like, no, you're not dead, you're not, and I've never seen someone play both parts like that, and I couldn't believe how well he did it. Where at, like, Stack, where he was this cocky guy throughout the whole movie, and as he's, like, dying, he's saying, like, he's like, she bit me, and he's like, I'm scared, and you're like, oh, it makes you feel it. And I think, and then Michael B. Jordan as the other character, and he's like the way, like, he's looking around and the way, like, he's shaking, it feels so real, and I feel like he just nailed it so well. But that was the big takeaway for me, where I don't see how he could not win Best Actor after such a scene like that. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Like, it was just such, like, a heated emotion during that scene, because, like, they almost looked like, it seemed like that sort of thing would be really impossible to convey.
Right.
Showing, like, that range of emotion, like the grieving emotion, but then also that scared
Yes.
of death emotion.
Yes.
Like, whenever he, like, was dying, he said, like, I love you, like, I don't want to die. But then at the same time, he's comforting himself.
Right.
Just, like, a really cool scene you really wouldn't imagine in a movie.
Right. You wouldn't think something like that would work, but he performed it so well and made it work. And also credits to Ryan Coogler, because they made it so seamless where you really don't realize that they're not acting in the same scene at the same time, where you see, like, scenes at the beginning when they're buying the place, and then when they're together at the end in the death scene, where it's like, cinematography's definitely come a long way, And the fact that they're able to make it so seamless, where you really think that he's acting with himself in a scene together. I mean, it was just so incredible. What do you think?
Yeah, like on one of the ending scenes, whenever they were fighting each other,
Yes.
I wonder how they like did that because like their punches landed, like they were like
know.
grabbing each other, touching each other.
Right. It felt like a real fight.
Yeah, I really don't even know how they did it. I'd be really interested to learn like the mechanics behind that.
I
Like,
would as well.
I wonder if someone wore a green screen and then he like did it afterwards, or like he fought with him. I don't even know how that works. It was like a really cool scene.
Right. I agree. And it was sort of like a Peaky Blinders type vibe throughout. And then towards the end, we're like, well, the whole point is that the vampires in this movie, they're like attracted to music. And so they end up coming for their party. And what they call him, Preacher Boy, he just ended up being so good in his music that, I mean, we end up seeing him later in the film where he's an established musician, where he really was that great. And that's why they traveled all this way. And it was a very interesting take on vampires that I hadn't seen before, where they can't come in until you invite them in. And that was really interesting to see, instead of like, stuff with like Twilight, where it's just, they're not even cool. They're not like, you don't care about them because they're, this, like, it was really a really interesting take on it. And these characters, like a lot of these actors I didn't know, a lot of these characters you don't really get to know, but like I was like really sad when like Cornbread went out to go to the bathroom, because he's not coming back. And it's so sad, because when he came back to the door and like they were just standing there, and the way like they're all reacting to seeing their friend trying to get back in and knowing they can't let him in. And I mean, it was really interesting, because it seems like the devil basically can wear a face of your friend to try and trick you. And it was just a really compelling movie for me. What did you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. Like a scene that had the same vibe as the cornbread scene was whenever Mary went out to talk with them, and like she came back and you knew that she was a vampire. Right. And Cornbread was at the door and she's like, "You gonna let me in?" He's like, "Yeah, of course." And then she walks right on in. At that moment, you know that like they made a big mistake. Like, it's so easy to deceive them. And then like whenever Mary, like, she starts having sex with Smoke, right?
Right.
And then, like, you see her start taking her clothes off, and you see a bite mark on her shoulder.
And that's when you when you know for sure. You're like, oh, no.
Yeah, it was like, it was just a scene where, like, you saw how easy it is. You saw that these vampires are, like, a really big threat, and things are about to get bad.
Right. And it was really frustrating, because it showed us earlier in the movie where a vampire got to someone's house, and you see that they let him in, and then he ended up turning them into vampires as well. And Mary, like, she was sitting with the vampires, and then she started walking away, and it was like, oh, maybe they're like, maybe she'll get back. But then as they're cutting back to the barn, you can see one of them start flying at her, and it was really freaky. And once she asks to let back in, and then he does it, you're like, oh, no, he did not, because they don't know that yet. They didn't, like... And that was just really frustrating. And it really sucks, because they didn't realize the problem quite yet. And they said, like, everybody out. So they sent everyone home, and everyone just ended up getting turned. It's just, and like, it got so bad so fast, where there were so many people there, and then everyone just got massacred, basically.
Yeah, I thought that was real. Like, whenever that, like, you didn't really see anybody that got away until... Right. Like, someone was trying to go back to the door, and they were like, wait, I hear dancing. And you see them all dancing around him. Like, it was, like, a really creepy scene. Right. And, like, whenever that one Asian's lady husband went out there to start the car as well, you knew he wasn't coming back.
Right. I couldn't believe she sent him out there. And then when he came back and she, like, started to believe him, like, that's not him. And then what really sent things off the rails was that they threatened her daughter, because I guess they absorbed like all their knowledge and all their memories. So like that's why she started freaking out, because they're like, well, they're gonna get my daughter if we don't take care of them here. And so that really weighed a lot of emotions. And I think a big thing too was when Stack came back, like, as a vampire in the doorway, and then Smoke has to face him and just be like, you ain't Stack. And then eventually we find out that he couldn't kill him, because he loved his brother too much. And that was compelling as well. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. He doesn't seem like a bad guy anymore,
Right.
but I feel like it still would have been better to free him from that.
Right.
Cuz like I don't know how that universe works. Like do they have to kill and eat people to live
Right.
or do they not? Cuz like him and Mary, like cuz she lived as well since she ran away like before the sun came up.
Right.
And like they encountered Sammy, they offered to turn him. And he was like, nah, I've lived long enough.
Right.
And like he was talking about like, because Sammy had said like that was the best night of my life. And he asked like, did you feel the same? He was like, yeah. Last time I saw the sun, last time I ever saw my brother again. It was such like a sad thing.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And it ends up being pretty sad as well of the reality of the South at that time, where they buy this plot of land that they had the party at from who they didn't know at the time, but ended up being a member of the KKK. So then it ends up the vampires end up letting them know, like, hey, like that, like they were gonna kill y'all in the morning. And so even though the vampires ended up murdering everybody, the KKK were gonna get to them as well. But Smoke was ready and was able to take them out, and that was really powerful. That felt like it was his like last hurrah and his last stand. And he ends up choosing his wife and child, and ends up. I think he ends up going to the afterlife in that, and that was really a great moment too, where he has to choose to keep living. Where I mean, everything has been gone. Where his brother, I mean, is still alive, but like not, he's not the same. And it was just a very compelling, a lot of compelling scenes from Michael B. Jordan. I mean, this is one of the best performances I've seen from him because he was great in Creed, and you know, there's been a lot of projects that he's done. Black Panther, he was obviously very great. But I mean, I don't know if I've seen him like act like this, where he act out of his mind, and I was very surprised, and I don't see how he doesn't win Best Actor. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like he portrayed the characters like, yes, he was playing two people at once, but he was able to like convey them so differently.
Right.
Like Smoke was the arrogant one, like he's
Stack.
the one. Oh yeah, Stack.
Yes.
Stack was the arrogant one. Like he was the one who told Mary to go out there. Like he let, like he was just like really arrogant as a person. Yes, he had his serious moments, but Smoke on the other hand, he was the serious one. He was like, you can't do that. Like whenever Smoke was trying to give the people free drinks
Right.
at the bar because they were poor, Smoke was like, yeah, we can't do that. We have to make money.
Right.
And then he was like, just let these people have a good time. It was like he conveyed two same different people so well.
Right. And they were very similar, but also like as opposites as well. And I think that was really compelling. And I think one of the saddest moments is when I think one of the guys was like blackout drunk or something like that, and there was alcohol spilled around him, and they end up thinking that he was turned and that it was blood, so they throw him out, and then they didn't realize that he was in fact alive, and they ended up just throwing him to the wolves there. That was really sad as well. And a lot of like once the vampires actually come in, where several people end up just sacrificing themselves just to lure the other vampires away, just because there's no other option, because they were heavily outnumbered. And then these things, this is very, very complicated to kill them. And there are only a couple instances that we saw where they were able to do so, other than Sunlight, which was a big one. What did you think about that?
Yeah, it was definitely like sad at the end because like you knew they weren't gonna win, and
Right.
that one Asian, like that one guy's wife,
Yeah.
like they probably could have waited out till Sunlight. I don't really know since that's not how it ended, but like she had started to make a Molotov cocktail.
Right.
And they were trying to stop her, and she yelled at them like, "Come on in!"
Right.
And like and then they opened the gate, or they opened the barn door, and they all flood in. You know, right then, like it's not gonna end well for a lot of these people.
Right. And most of them they had already sent out before they even realized what it was. And, you know, if you would think like if they knew what it was before, like they would have never sent Mary out there. They would have never sent everybody out there afterwards. And it felt pretty available, but also they didn't know yet. And so that's also pretty unfortunate. But, you know, all in all, a very great movie. and such a great year for movies as a whole, where we're going to have FNAF 2 coming out in December, and we're still going to have like a lot of movies coming out this year. But I mean, we're only halfway through the year, just about halfway, and it already feels like we've gotten such a great year for movies, and it's been quite some time since I felt this optimistic about going into the theaters. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely, because I don't go to a movie in theaters unless I know it's going to be a good movie.
Right.
Like, I would say the movies that we've seen in theaters have definitely been worth it.
Right. I would agree. Well, this has been the Ben Buzz, and I'm Benny King, and my guest, Quinten.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.